So therefore, given the compulsions of the empire and the new empire regulators who are like one of whom is going to be the next president, what possibilities do we see?
Well, I mean, this is the tragedy of the United States. As Michael was saying, that the Constitution has been violated, the Republic is under attack, the diversity that used to exist in this country. I mean, I remember it well. You know, when there was a foreign policy disaster like Vietnam, Senator Fulbright, at the Foreign Relations Committee at the Senate, called them in and held them to account. What the hell is going on? What are you doing? That's all gone. I mean, most of the Democrats voted for this neocon war. We shouldn't forget that. There was a consensus on this war between the two wings of the U.S. establishment. Obama did oppose it, it's true, but he was a rookie. By and large, the Democratic Party leadership went along for it. Clinton came and told the Labour Party conference in Britain, you've got to back Blair. So it's not simply, the neocons aren't the only problem. One of the problems we confront is that there is no serious debate on foreign policy within the mainstream establishment. Take Palestine. This, everyone knows, is a serious issue. And especially after 9/11, you would have thought it would be discussed. But the offensive of AIPAC and the Israeli embassy has meant that in the United States there has been no clear-cut debate on the future of that region and the future of the Palestinians as a people and Israel's own future. This should be being discussed by politicians. Instead of scaremongering, Israel is going to be wiped out. No one can wipe out Israel. It's got nuclear weapons. The only region, the only country in that region which has. So it's these absences and vacuums in American politics that are very disturbing, that everything's been narrowed down and democracy itself has increasingly become a shell in which people function. I mean, Obama had the opportunity to go on the offensive, but he was very careful, very cautious, and on the question of Pakistan, Afghanistan, even more aggressive than McCain, which was slightly shocking. It's almost as if he was trying to say, okay, I'm against the war in Iraq, we should have an exit strategy in Iraq, but I'm tough on Afghanistan.
A good war, yes.
I'm tough on Afghanistan, and go in there and send the troops from Iraq into Afghanistan. And then where will you send them from Afghanistan?
And that might be quite acceptable to neocon for the following reason. The reason being that the destruction that was meant for Iraq is already done. Nothing more can be done to gain anything, so we leave that and move elsewhere and do more damage there. So one of the ideas that seems to be, at least in the Arab state, people think the neocon agenda is not so much regime change or region change, but to destroy states and leave them rubble for next 20-30 years, and that's the punishment they're going to give, not to change anything, but to destroy them, to punish them.
I don't think that was the, maybe the pro-Israeli neocons, that it might have been their agenda, but I think, naive though it sounds, there were a number of people who believed they could go in, install a secular government in Iraq, which would then become a platform for permanent U.S. bases in the area to replace the bases which they had lost in Saudi Arabia. Qatar, a very small country, is not a substitute. So control of the oil and control of the region dictated in the game plan to have American bases, permanent bases in Iraq. Some people say 5, some people say 13 or 30. But a country that was in rubble, in chaos, would not be a secure platform for those bases. I would like to say that this business of the narrowing of the issues that can be debated, there are 1 or 2 left, like whether we'll have a national health scheme or not. The underlying that is being the growth, really the takeover of what Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex, that the American economy now has been so militarized that it gives to both parties, and the result is what Gore Vidal aptly said, is one party with 2 right wings.
One property party with 2 right wings, yes, absolutely. But I think what I'm asking you is, it seems like in 2006, election results indicated there was a dissensus at the mass level and at the elite level in the approach to war in Iraq. But in 2008, the election process seems to be used to rebuild that consensus, to continue with the present policy. Do you read it that way?
I think inside the Democratic Party there has been a lot of Gleichhaltung, making the party hew to a line that is pro-Israeli, and there are dissenting voices in the Democratic Party, but all of the progressive candidates that I would have liked to have seen elected in 2006, the mainstream Democrats ran candidates against them, so that the Democratic Party, instead of being a real opposition, has been one of the ways of controlling opinion. And my explanation for that is ultimately money. That the money is coming from the single source for both parties and freezing out the real alternatives. If this was a real democracy, I'm sure we would be out of Iraq very quickly. But I don't foresee that happening at all in the...
Right. Well, why own only one party when you can own both of them? So you give money to both sides.
And they can be bought so cheaply.
But there has been, over the last 30 years, a narrative that's been developing, and a message, and a whole climate of opinion and ideology from the right, which has talked about the need for military might, the need to ward off these external enemies. First it was the communists, now it's the terrorists and the like. And the Democrats are constantly being put in the position of looking soft, or not being as tough. And so last night we heard Barack Obama, that horrifying expression of his, "We'll go in and take them out," or something like he was ordering a hit from a mob or that sort of thing. So they've got to show they're tough. They live in constant fear that they are not, that the people are not going to have faith in their ability to lead in the world. And actually, I think the rank and file Democrats are way ahead of their leadership. They don't want that kind of thing. When Democratic speakers at the Democratic National Convention got up and talked about getting our place back, and so that we can resume our role as world leaders, there was absolute silence. That wasn't an applause line. These people don't want America to have to be the world leader, and there's no dialogue about those assumptions. Why do we have to be the world leader? What does that mean to be a world leader? What about taking care of things here at home and the like? It's very hard to get that dialogue going.
And here the media are a problem, that the media is so much more concentrated now than they were just even 20 years ago. Yeah. And so it's absolutely outrageous. I mean, thank God we have the internet, and there's a kind of clarity. I mean, of course, there's all kinds of junk on the internet, but if you search on the internet, you can find an area of decent debate and weighing of ideas. But there's a total disconnect between the rationality of the internet and the ideological
monopoly
of the, we call them the MSM now. All of the mainstream media together have become a single phenomenon. You can't expect any serious discussion from any of them.
But given that there may be an economic meltdown in this country, will it be simply because of the media that they lead to able to keep people down, or there's more complex explanations that need to be explored?
Well, I think that, the fact is that the imposition of the Washington Consensus, the neoliberal economic system, policed by the top financial institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO, and behind the scenes the US Treasury Department, tried to remold the world in the image of the United States. In Latin America, which was the first area where these experiments were launched, it's imploded. The US has never been more isolated in South America than it is today. And not only from the radical regimes of Chavez, Morales, Correa, and Lugo in now Paraguay, where Bolivarian has been elected, but also Lula in Brazil and Bachelet in Chile, who don't agree with Chavez on everything, but will not allow themselves to be used by the US against Bolivia or Venezuela. That's extremely important. And that is an area where the US is now out of control, with the exception of Colombia, which is their only total stooge country.